Hello, welcome to the WorkLife digital booth. Really thrilled to have you join us today, so thanks for stopping by and checking us out. Our session aims to build on the presentations you've been seeing during SIOPSA, adding a practical business perspective and how investing in organisational mental well-being isn't just a nice to have, but a crucial strategy for achieving better business outcomes. And we'll also provide some actionable takeaways to utilize analytics to develop tailored and effective wellbeing strategies for businesses. But before we dive in, probably an idea to introduce ourselves. I'm Lisa Munro. I'm based in London. I bring about 25 years of experience across the UK, EU, Asia Pacific, and North America. Throughout my career, I've navigated the ever-evolving challenges of managing both business success and profitability and people well-being, and I'm excited to share some of those insights today. And with me is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Anna Leroux.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Lisa. I live in the Netherlands and I'm a registered industrial organizational psychologist, and I bring experience from my roles in consulting in corporate, business, and research domains across Europe, Africa, and the UAE. And I focus specifically in well-being, people, and culture in organizations. So let's get started.
Great. So just a quick overview of what we'll be covering in this session. I think we all agree that we're experiencing the pressures of current times across the globe. Rising costs, changing employee needs, and financial pressures on businesses. It's more critical than ever for leaders and the C-suite to understand the importance of investing in mental well-being. Yet what we tend to find from HR managers and wellbeing leaders is that there's a real struggle with convincing the C-suite and executives to invest in mental wellbeing. And when there is investment, there's also a struggle to ensure that the initiatives are effective and deliver a solid return. So what we'll be doing is a quick, or as quick as possible, overview of the huge amounts of research and data and statistics around the impact on people and businesses today, which really reinforce the evidence and the need to adopt a more strategic approach to mental well-being in the workplace. Then we'll cover the WorkLife quotient approach, our tool that helps businesses develop an evidence-based strategy to address psychological well-being in the workplace. Now, many of you are aware of the increasing level of discussion around mental well-being across the globe. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in his 2023 address to the UN that with all the challenges we face, our world is becoming unhinged. And the statistics definitely support that statement. 1 out of 2 people in the world will develop a mental health risk in their lifetime. Today's workforce face numerous challenges and stresses in both their personal and professional lives, which contribute to significant psychological well-being risks. And I think that's one thing that business leaders need to acknowledge, that the source of mental well-being risks is very much a 360-degree picture. Stresses and risks come from people's personal lives, social lives, and work lives. And it's not a business's responsibility to ensure that the employees, are managing all of those areas, but it's very much a business's responsibility to be aware of all the impacts to their employees, and having that broad awareness really helps to ensure that the initiatives and the support they can provide their employees is really effective. So understanding and addressing these 360-degree stresses are crucial for organizations wanting to support their employees' mental well-being effectively. Now, without doubt, you've encountered some of the significant studies and pieces of research being conducted all the time and being released every month, which really highlight the enormity of the issue. Over half of employees worldwide are grappling with intense stress, leading to significant health impacts. Now, we collect and collate data from numerous sources throughout the year. Sources and sample sizes can range from smaller country-specific surveys of CEOs and HR managers, all the way through to large global surveys of over 150,000 workers across hundreds of countries. And while the actual numbers being, reported on may differ depending on the sample and the report, overall the analytics and the findings are pretty consistent.
Absolutely, Lisa. I can't agree with you more. In the latest just published Gallup State of the Global Workforce report, it says that people's mental well-being has been worsening, and particularly in the last 10 years, the number of people that experiences stress and sadness and anxiety, anger and worry has been on the rise. And in fact, it has achieved the highest levels since the Gallup surveys began. And we can add a cost to this. This low employee well-being and engagement cost the global economy a staggering $8.9 trillion. And this is equivalent to a 9% of global GDP.
I mean, there really are alarming statistics. And when you drill down, I mean, we've mentioned before, employee stress levels are at an historic high. But in terms of the impact to, society as a whole, as well as businesses, there are issues in, every country across the world. In the UK, 13.7 million working days are lost annually due to work-related illness. Over 1 million Americans miss work daily due to stress. And in Australia, 92% of serious work-related mental health claims are due to mental stress. But the interesting thing is, despite all the evidence and the statistics, there still appears to be a very big disconnect with what executives in the C-suite believe is happening in their workplace and what the reality is. So Deloitte published their Wellbeing at Work survey every year, usually conducted amongst around 3,000 people in 4 countries, the UK, the US, Canada, and Australia. And while most employees are saying that their health worsened in the past year, more than 3 out of 4 executives actually believe that their health improved. And you can see in the bar chart that 33% of employees felt their mental well-being improved, compared to 77% of executives who believed that was the case. And in contrast, 25% of employees say that their mental health worsened, while only 3% of executives believed that it had. I think this evidence or this research can potentially underpins the reason behind why we're seeing this reticence or slow uptake of businesses investing in mental well-being. But despite the historical underinvestment in employee well-being, the evidence really is clear that companies that prioritize the well-being of their employees tend to perform better across a wide range of metrics. Now, University of Oxford Wellbeing Research Centre did a study in 2023 analysing 1,600 US companies with 15 million surveys on well-being, and found higher employee well-being equals greater financial performance. And this is across a number of measures. So higher annual profits, greater return on assets, higher market valuations. These companies consistently outperform the market by significant margins.
And even in our own analysis of the most valuable companies in 11 of the major European Union economies, we highlight that there's a correlation between employee well-being, satisfaction, and corporate success. But it also impacts performance and engagement. We all know that happier workers not only tend to be more productive, but they also exhibit lower levels of absenteeism, higher levels of collaboration, creativity, commitment, and motivation at work.
And then last but not least is also the impact on ESG social value and corporate reputation. Stakeholders, including customers and investors, are increasingly scrutinizing businesses for their approach to supporting their staff. This is both their staff and their suppliers. So big I suppose, room or opportunity for corporate reputation and the impact to that.
Lisa, I so much agree with you, and I think the numbers illustrate the scope of the problem of mental well-being, but it also points to the business case as you illustrate with some of the research studies. Investing in well-being has indeed become a crucial strategy for achieving both better business outcomes. But then, now we could ask what is happening actually in real life on the ground. So many companies proudly highlight their investment in engagement surveys, as this is a testament to their commitment to their staff. However, focusing on engagement in isolation, it can be a double-edged sword. An intense focus on work without the corresponding attention to employee well-being can lead to burnout, stress, and a decline in performance. And this is where well-being stepped in as the missing piece of the puzzle. We often refer to well-being as the sustainability of engagement.
Exactly. And I think, again, that recent Gallup study that we've uncovered really highlights the risk. I mean, it's from a perspective of engaged workers who are not thriving from a mental well-being perspective, are significantly more vulnerable. So I think the statistics are, 61% higher likelihood of burnout, 48% higher likelihood of stress, much higher levels of daily worry. Whereas if employees agree that their employers care for their well-being as well as their level of engagement, we see statistics like 69% less likely to actively search for a new job and 71% less likely to report experiencing burnout.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is when engagement and well-being both work hand in hand, we see this greater resilience against burnout, we see innovative thinking and creativity, but we also know when there is healthy collaboration between colleagues that it enhances productivity and that it leads to and it improves talent retention.
So there are, in fact, a number of organizations that are starting to understand the importance and the significance of supporting mental well-being in the workplace. What we tend to find is they're increasingly embracing individual level interventions like meditation and mindfulness apps, employee assistance programs, lunchtime yoga, and mental health days as a means to address the mental health needs of their employees. And while this is definitely a step in the right direction, one of the issues is it might fall short a little in terms of creating a truly resilient and mentally healthy workforce. I mean, it's key. How effective can a 5-minute stress relief meditation be for an employee who works in a chronically understaffed department with an erratically behaving boss who in turn is harassed by their boss? And again, Wellbeing Research Centre at the University of Oxford, who conducted some research focusing on individual interventions when it comes to mental well-being. Their study was 46,000 workers across 233 organizations globally, exploring the impact of various individual well-being interventions. They found no significant difference in mental well-being between participants and non-participants of those individual interventions. And, these findings really align with those of other researchers who have raised concern about the limited effectiveness of individual level approaches in the workplace in terms of addressing the root causes of workplace mental health issues. So there is, an increasing amount of research which highlights the importance of organizational change alongside individual interventions. The focus really needs to shift from changing the worker to changing the workplace or changing both together. And there are a number of reasons why individual level interventions may fall short. Number one, inadequate addressing of work conditions. I mean, critics really argue that these interventions fail to address the root causes of stress and poor mental health, which often lie in the workplace factors like demanding workloads, ineffective management practices, or poor job design. So simply teaching employees coping mechanisms doesn't address the source of the problem. There's the shifting of responsibility. By promoting individual level interventions, the narrative can inadvertently shift responsibility for mental health to the employee alone, which can create a toxic side effect by implying that stress is the individual's fault and solely manageable by individual efforts. And then, as I've mentioned, limited effectiveness. So, studies reveal that individual interventions may not be powerful enough to counteract the negative impacts of demanding work environments and don't really equip individuals with the necessary resources to manage unrealistic pressures or balance heavy job demands.
Okay, so if these approaches aren't effective as we want them to be, and business remains skeptical about the investment in mental well-being, what do we do to introduce an effective strategic, joint, individual, organizational approach that allows businesses to experience the benefit of investment and an ROI? And I'd like to introduce the WLQ, the work-life quotient. So what is a work-life quotient? It is a psychological well-being tool modeled on scientific research. It's designed for challenges of today's workplace environment. It provides organizational-wide insights and intelligence on the mental well-being levels of staff. And it also measures people and culture, leadership styles, organizational purpose and values, and social impact. And these factors have a direct influence on staff well-being. And the WLQ is unique and it uses two psychological frameworks, and these present a holistic measurement of both the individual and also its interaction with their environment. And therefore, it helps individuals to build their resilience and deal with change in a productive way. And it also provides us with the insights into the negative behavior in organizations. And this tool is also powerful because it provides us with a tremendous amount of data analytics to really hone into and on the driving areas of the problem and help us to assist and to design interventions appropriately to close those gaps. On the positive side, we're also identifying ambassador status, and this is where we are measuring more than 75th percentile of the market, and these are strengths that organizations can really utilize to create a microculture change in their organization. And the core of our approach is to measure at individual, but then also organizational levels. We measured both at those two levels, individual organizational level, the drivers of well-being. And this allows us to provide the interventions and recommendations that address, and as I've said, the root causes of the risk in organizations, and also to provide the evidence-based recommendations to manage these and ultimately then enhance both the performance and return on investment, but also, as Lisa said, the social impact thereof, the value of the investment. So here's an academic model that underpins our measurement. It is based on 9 main constructs, broken down into 27 sub-constructs at an individual level, but then also 9 constructs at an organizational level. So analysis of the latest WLQ data reveals that several factors significantly influence mental well-being within the workplace. And the three that we found, the 3 constructs to be the most impactful with our current data is personal growth, curiosity, and boundary management. But then also the risk factors. Now, data highlights also in alignment with all the statistics that Lisa has been presenting, the critical areas of concern. And we know stress has been one of the highest levels measured ever. So we also measure stress management remains a pervasive issue, with both leaders and employees alike reporting then low levels of proficiency in coping with stress. And this is an area that poses significant risks. Similarly, social well-being scores indicate also room for improvement. We measured low levels of social acceptance and a general distrust in others. And we also measured leaders and employees experience a very low sense of social integration and cohesion. And we all know when relationships break down, we experience social isolation and a lack of meaning and also support. And this in itself poses a risk to our well-being. And the last area of concern was around attachment. Factors such as ineffective communication, a lack of collaboration, or instances of discrimination can create an environment where individuals then do not feel emotionally connected to each other or less so to the organization. So building the real connections where people genuinely care about each other builds a strong work family. So many of you listening to this presentation are scientists, practitioners, and may want to ask, what does it look like in real life? So Lisa and I would like to share the case study. It's case study data. It's of a recent client in the financial service industry in the UK. And implementing the recommendations of the WorkLife Digital Report hold promise to improve employees' lives, organizational performance, and then also it positions the organization as a leader in achieving sustainable value for those around them. So we measured both individual psychological well-being, but also then the organizational drivers impacting well-being to be on par with industry benchmark, as you can see on the graphs here. However, there were areas where they were at risk at both an individual, but also relating to their workplace practices. So for the latter, we can see that the lowest scoring areas were purpose, rewards and recognition, and trust, with the latter being the biggest risk area. At an individual level, stress was critically high throughout the organization, and this had a negative impact on health, relationships, and also job performance. Then, specifically with regards to boundary management, we measured space boundaries as an issue. So, employees struggled to set and maintain that healthy emotional, mental, and interpersonal limits to protect their own well being. Space boundaries are then the ability to separate or integrate work and personal space. And these boundaries are critical for a healthy balance between personal needs and the expectations of relationships or then external influences. And what we see in corporate organizations today, the pressure to always be acceptable in cultures that encourage and reward constant availability. This can erode personal space. Then with regards to attachment, we measured the lack of authentic emotional connection in relationships with this particular client, and this further impacted their sense of belonging and resilience. And an unhealthy or toxic workplace culture can contribute to a lack of attachments amongst employees. So factors such as ineffective communication, a lack of collaboration, or instances of discrimination can create an environment where individuals do not feel emotionally connected to each other or then the organization. And then on the issue of forgiveness, and forgiveness is the ability to easily accept apologies, quickly forget disagreements, and also accept people as they are without seeking revenge. And we'd like to link this to building a culture of forgiveness and proactively engaging in dialogue, but also taking responsibility for your actions and rather seeing mistakes as a journey towards learning, and leaders need to model this behavior as well.
And
Other
also, that's
risks
something I think is so important. Sorry to jump in. I just think, that forgiveness mediation area, we do see this a lot in organizations where there's a culture of not acknowledging failure as a means of learning. It's like what has gone wrong, even if it's from an individual perspective, not doing something properly. But what do they learn from it, and what do they then know never to repeat in the future to ensure it doesn't happen again? And I think a lot of organizations, there is this culture of blame rather than really encouraging learning, encouraging constructive feedback or any kind of feedback as something that's really positive. And when you do construct that kind of culture, you're less likely to have issues with, forgiveness and grudges. And just another point, around the social well-being elements here, social acceptance and social actualization. Again, that's very much relates back to what I said at the beginning in terms of what employees are experiencing or having to deal with in their personal lives. Negative social experiences. We're constantly being fed negative stories, with all the wars and the political upheavals around the world. So, the impact that our social and personal lives are having all contribute to, what's going on for us, even if it is at work. But those two risk areas under social well-being are key.
And we've previously mentioned the data analytics in our organizational report. So breaking down the data with various demographic levels and enhances our ability to generate interventions. And as you can see in the slide, females and young adults, specifically within the ages of 20 to 29-year-olds, psychological well-being scores were the highest. And the categories that struggled the most here was specifically the 30 to 39-year-olds, they struggled the most, but also senior leadership experienced that their work environment were the most at risk. And as we measure that with the Workplace Health Index. For this client, we recommended interventions to address psychological well-being at a company-wide level, but also some interventions to address the targeted groups that are at risk, namely senior leadership and then the 30 to 39-year-olds. Yeah, and our interventions, we present the interventions and you'll see it's across different categories in terms of HR, organizational development, leadership development, coaching, and also team development to then effectively address the identified risk factors. And as we've said, we work systemically and holistically. So what's in it for the individual? The individual receives their very own confidential report with coaching questions and recommendations to improve their psychological risk areas over the 27 sub-constructs that has been measured. And from an organizational database point of view, it consists of more than 90 different organizational interventions to address well-being risks. And we've got 85 interventions currently to promote well-being ambassador status.
So hopefully you are one of the leaders saying, well, I do really care about my staff well-being, but I'm not sure about the best way to create a people-first organization that, then results in business success. Implementing well-being strategies really need to be unique to what matters for employees in your organization. In any business initiative, measuring, benchmarking, and evaluating are really key to ensuring efficacy and impact, particularly value on investment and return on investment. However, what we're seeing is in the realm of organizational mental well-being, many businesses are failing to apply these rigorous standards that you see in many other elements of business. So they're relying on mental well-being apps and employee assistance programs as a superficial means to address mental well-being. And, while there definitely is a benefit to these initiatives, organizations really need to conduct more comprehensive needs assessments and benchmarking. One of the key examples we use is employee assistance programs. Again, study that came out, I think it was last month, that showed that majority of businesses have adopted this kind of initiative to support well-being within their workplace. I think adoption is around 80% of businesses globally, but actual utilization of EAPs by employees is between 3 and 5%. So again, businesses investing in initiatives that aren't necessarily providing, real support or help addressing the needs or the mental well-being needs of their staff. So it can be a little bit of a waste of investment, because a lot of EAPs tend to be kind of a one-size-fits-all approach. So combining comprehensive needs assessment and benchmarking really creates a strategic framework that maximizes both value on investment and return on investment. So things like targeted interventions, needs assessments provide detailed insights into the specific mental health issues and risks affecting employees in a specific organization. With this kind of information, organizations can design targeted interventions that address these issues directly, which lead to more effective outcomes. Resource allocation, understanding the precise needs of employees and ensures that resources are allocated where they are most needed. And again, this prevents wastage of resources on ineffective programs, thereby maximizing return on investment. We have enhanced employee engagement. When employees see that their specific needs are being, attempting to be understood and addressed, engagement levels increase. And then this heightened engagement is a key component of value on investment, as engaged employees are more likely to be productive, satisfied, and loyal to their organization. There's improved program design. So benchmarking again provides insights into successful strategies used by other organizations, which means that adopting these best practices, companies can design more effective mental wellbeing programs that deliver better results. And then, as I said, measurable outcomes. When you establish baseline metrics through benchmarking, it really allows the organization to measure the impact of their initiatives accurately. And this data-driven approach ensures that improvements in mental well-being are quantifiable and, again, much easier to demonstrate a return on investment. So, to sum up, we are in a world where pressure to deliver shareholder value is relentless. And, I know from personal experience, it can be very easy for organizations to fixate solely on profit. However, building a people-first organization is a long-term investment in the well-being of both the organization and society at large, and ultimately helps to deliver financial success and sustainability. Potential employees and investors will be choosing between organizations that can demonstrate a commitment to workforce well-being and supporting their staff, and organizations that can't. And that's it, folks. I really hope our session gave some insight into actionable strategies and techniques for driving improved mental well-being in organizations. If you would like to trial it yourself for free, you can go to this URL and take the individual assessment. It's part of our social contribution to giving individuals access to insights on developing their psychological well-being. So that's part of our commitment. Or contact us if you are interested in investigating an organizational assessment. But ultimately, our mission at WorkLife Digital is to provide a platform and support system for organizations to develop effective company-wide psychological well-being to support their most important asset, which is their people, and which ultimately drives sustainable performance and profitability.
Thanks so much for dropping in and listening to our webinar. And please feel free to contact either of us if you want to know more, or if you've got questions, or if you want to, like Lisa was saying, if you're interested in organizational assessments. And also follow us on LinkedIn. Lisa and myself publish a lot of articles, either from a statistical point of view, some case study material. So feel free to do that, and we hope to touch base with you soon. Bye-bye.